G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another episode of r/EntitledPeople. Now, if you love me as much as I love you, you'd head on down to one of my new playlists in the description down below, and smash a like on this video. Now, with that out of the way, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some good content. Our first story was posted by user QTACHissis, titled, "Previous owner's permission is not my permission." I live in the country, moved to this house in 2012. It is a protected watershed. We still have to tell people, I don't care if previous owner said you could 30 years ago, you may not hunt doves, deers and wild turkeys on my property. No, you cannot plant things here. Remove the salt lick. Get that deer blind off my property. No, you may not shoot target practice here. No, you may not pick fruits and pecans from my trees whenever you want. No, you may not pick my blackberries. No, you may not fish here. No, you may not park here to walk to the fishing hole. I have removed the salt lick station 5 times. I have dismantled 4 different deer blinds. I've pulled out and turned over marijuana plants I find growing several times. Always call the police for that one. I have dismantled a still 3 separate times. Call the police for that too. I've chased off hunters, I've chased off people who were scrap metal salvaging. In one memorable instance, the previous owner's grandson showed up with a truck full of stuff, telling me his grandma said he could move into one of the trailers since she had come by and seen no one was living in it. She told him she was sure we wouldn't mind. This was after she called us to ask and we said no. Not rent, just live there for free. No to both. All of this happened because previous owners still tells people they can hunt, fish, farm. Yep, she told our neighbor he could plant in our field before he knew she had moved. This was 2014, or whatever else her brain comes up with. She told her grandsons to just ignore us and keep doing it. That we really didn't mind, you know? What made them stop? Not the no trespassing signs, not us telling them no. Not me burning their stuff in a bonfire. Nope. Still those effing entitled people on my land. Edit. The reason I have not confronted them is that I can never actually catch them at it. I find their crap and bonfire it. The times I have heard them, I always go out armed. They done run off. The farmer neighbor was very sorry. I don't blame him. We let him keep what he had planted that year. It wasn't much. And he never did it again. We have a good relationship with him and his workers. They are very respectful. Second edit, a lot of people are suggesting I fence my property. Few problems with that. I live on 13 acres of heavily wooded land. I'm on a fixed income and am not able to afford it. I enjoy the wildlife on my property. If I could afford a fence, I wouldn't be able to watch the deer in the mornings and evenings. As far as cameras, I'm going to try to save enough out of my very tight budget to get one that can move between spots. I've been told to get one that does timestamps, waterproof, high pics, night vision, long battery life. Any suggestions are welcome. Third edit, was reminded of this recently. About 3 years ago, her daughter called and said, "We noticed the greenhouse, which is not visible from the road, you have to physically come on the property to see it, is empty. We are renovating it slowly as a learning project. It's uninhabitable at the moment, and would like to move in there in the next few days. We will paint it and mow the lawn for rent. It will only be 3 to 6 months. Sounds good?" My response? Why bless your dear little old heart, Shug, but no thank you. Very Texan says, post no trespassing, but also large signs at road access that says, former owner no longer has any financial interest in or claim to this property. Her permission is null and void. New owners does not allow anyone on the property for any reason. Absolutely no hunting, fishing, planting, squatting, or brewing. Cameras have been put in place, even if you don't have them. Violators will be prosecuted. The next time someone says the old woman's given them permission for X, then get her contact info from them and send her a cease and desist order saying the same. We have no trespassing signs up, and the purple paint thing, Whenever I hear them, I usually go out there armed with my compound bow or a big gun for scare factor. It pisses me off when I hear them but can't catch them. Lots of woods on my land. I had a similar situation. I left that house after getting a money court order that police would never enforce, and someone shot my dog and cat, tried to run me over, burned my house and stabbed my kid. Well, that doesn't sound so cash money now, does it? Novapine says, my grandfather died in 2018. He usually never cared for people to hunt, but we've had multiple strangers just show the hell up in our yard to go back up on the hill and tell us someone we don't even know gave them permission to go hiking, with their guns fully visible, dressed in camo. My sister asked, who the frick is X? He doesn't live here and does not have authority over this land. Go hunt on his land. I give you permission, but freak off and don't come back or the law will greet you on your way back off the hill. It's stopped now, haha. And Fortnite 711 says, I feel your pain. We have 59 acres and have caught Amish poaching multiple times in our land. There was a calf hutch with bait piles 1 year in the middle of our hayfield. When confronted, he tried to blame the wind for that stuff being there. He seemed to think that just because a woman owned the land, he could do what he wanted. He seriously said this once. I hunt during gun season, and it can be frightening that you don't know who could be out on your land, especially when there are weapons involved. Exactly. You feel violated and disrespected as well as actual fear for your safety. There was a few times I didn't even hunt in my preferred spot because I didn't want to risk anything bad happening. This last year we decided, F it, it's my land and they can suck it. What really baffles me about your story is how this woman seems to think she still has a say over property she's sold and had been paid for. I'm glad you and the farmer neighbor were able to work something out, and they were very remorseful. Would love to know, in a way, what is going on in that old woman's noggin though, and the grandsons as well. I think we all know the answer. Say it with me guys, entitlement, hey! And this next one I actually saw in the r/coronavirus. Family is told to self-quarantine after the daughter tests positive for coronavirus. Proceeds to run errands around town, including attending a school dance. This is big news in St. Louis. A young woman returned from Italy to Chicago, then took the Amtrak to St. Louis. She began to feel symptoms and cold. She was tested for coronavirus. Her family was told by health officials last Thursday to self-quarantine for their good, as well as the community. Since then, the father went to a cafe and someone's home. The mum went to a restaurant, a grocery store, a gym, and a nail salon. Most egregiously, the father took the daughter to a father-daughter dance at a fancy hotel. Several schools who had students who attended the same dance are now closed for decontamination and testing. This family, who was repeatedly told by health officials to stay at home, took it upon themselves to possibly infect countless people around the region because they didn't want to be inconvenienced. Thankfully for them, their names have not been released. People in STL are furious about their disregard for public health. They should be seriously fined and forcibly quarantined if they can't be bothered to follow simple instructions. Over here, not USA, ignoring quarantine, even self-quarantine, is a criminal offense that carries 3 to 7 year prison term. Also, it opens you to a civil suit. People who are forced into quarantine can sue this guy for any financial damages incurred. For example, missing 14 days of work, or if they got fired, or medical expenses. If anyone dies from the virus that can be traced through exposure to these people, it should be grounds for manslaughter, or at least negligible homicide. I mean, after the quarantine was ordered, of course. Which it actually is being done in Italy. And it seems like everyone who gets diagnosed with it decides to go on a frickin' road trip. I've never been to the mountains, but if I get diagnosed, I might just buy a bus ticket and go. Sarcasm obviously, guys, come on. And our next post is by user BloodyXXManiac, titled, Entitled Woman Steps in Front of My Loaded Shopping Cart. I hope this is the correct sub. This happened in the early 90s, but I remember it like it was yesterday. I was on leave from military and visiting my parents who lived on an acreage north of Winnipeg, Manitoba. I was helping them do some landscaping, and Mum and I ran into the city to pick some materials up, This was a weekday. We had just completed our purchases, and I was wheeling the very heavy cart towards the store exit, when a woman stepped out from the end of the till right into my path. The lady had her back to me and had stepped sideways out into the aisle, and had no idea I was there. I tried to stop the cart, but it was very heavy and I bumped her. Not terribly hard, before I could stop the cart. Being a Canadian, my first reaction was to apologize. She was dressed in a very nice business suit, and Mum and I were in pretty rough clothes, as we had been working in the yard. The lady looks us up and down with a sneer on her face, and immediately started to berate me in a loud voice. I was shocked, but my mum takes zero crap from people. I don't remember what was said, but the gist of it is that we should be more careful around our bedders, and my mum telling her to get her head out of her ass. That was the end of the interaction in the store, and we headed out to the car. We loaded up the car and were about to get in when we saw the woman in her vehicle. At the time, my parents had just bought a beautiful new Lincoln Town Car, and the lady drove past in a rusty old panel van. I will never forget the look of mortification on that lady's face as she drove past. And just a nice little story by Braided Silver in the comments, cause why not? A lovely don't judge on the cover story. Many decades ago, when my 60-plus-year-old mum was barely a teenager and the family were building a house, my grandparents one day went into basically IKEA nowadays kind of store, to look for a desk or chair etc. for their children's rooms. They had just gotten off of work, and they were painters, so imagine how dirty and poor they must have looked to the salesperson who begrudgingly greeted them and offered their help. My grandparents, thinking they were just regular customers, pointed out a desk and said they were interested in that one and maybe also that object there. The salesman immediately asked them, "So how do you want to pay? What kind of loan should we create for you?" Which ticked off my granddad, who had his pocket filled with grands of his salary from a finished job just that day. So he said they weren't done yet, and began going full out on getting desks and chairs for all 3 children, and shelves and whatever they could lay their eyes on. Suddenly though, the salesman changed his tune when he saw my granddad pay all that in cash right then and there. Some might have left the store, taking their business elsewhere, but he wanted to prove to the guy that you can't tell a person in work clothes if they can pay or need a loan, and to assume the loan is the way to go without even having the customer bring it up, which was the norm, was quite rude. So what if the store got a big sale that day? That guy had a very embarrassed red face when he was realizing his mistake. And our next story is by user Rabbites, titled, "Entitled Woman Gets Soaked in the Rain." I was at a general store that I like to go to that is owned and staffed by Mennonites. They are the nicest people you can imagine, and the cashiers are usually young women in their late teens/early 20s. They are modest, soft-spoken ladies, and unfailingly polite and helpful. I have never before today seen anyone be rude to them, in this store or any other run by them. Large population of them in this area. The store is pretty busy most of the time, but the cashiers are good about getting people checked out quickly and have an organized system. We were getting ready to check out when she appeared. A wild Karen, something rarely seen in this area, had zoomed forward with her 2 loaded carts. She first drew our notice when she uttered the mating cry of her type, "Husband, where are you?" at the top of her lungs as she shoved her way in front of the people who were next in line. The soft-spoken husband and adorable, well-behaved daughter are ready. He is helping the little one decide on candy from the immense selection of candies on the bulk candy wall. And he's saying, "Are you checking out already? We aren't done." "I don't care if you aren't done. You better hurry up," she bellowed as she slammed things on the counter in front of a cashier who can't be more than 17. The poor victim, cashier, tried to keep track of what she had scanned as the woman slammed more and more onto the counter in the middle of the already scanned items. We had moved to another register, but could clearly hear her berating the poor cashier as she tries to ring up 2 carts worth of goods and bag/box things for the woman. The cashier was really quite fast, considering the system is not automated other than a hand scanner. She had checked her out in less time than it took us to check out with fewer things. As she finished up at the register and slammed the last of her things into her carts, we, and likely the entire large store, heard her say, "It took long enough. I guess cute child isn't getting anything." Meanwhile, husband and cute child have decided on a candy, and he is helping her bag and label her treat. They're clearly not ready to check out, and the woman has already paid. I saw him speak to her, but couldn't hear what was said, as the man had enough manners to not bellow like a cow that had lost her calf. Woman bellowed, "I guess I'll have to do it myself," as she headed for the door. I looked up in time to see the husband step up to the counter with cute child to pay for her candy. I can read lips well enough to know he was apologizing to the sweet cashier. Woman came stomping toward the door where I was sitting on a bench next to the register waiting for my mum and son to check out. I'm disabled and was exhausted. She threw up her arms and bellowed, "Oh my god, now it's raining." She turned to look at me and I heard her mutter, "I guess a cripple isn't going to open the door for me," and then she shoved her way out. Really glad mum and son didn't hear that. It wouldn't have been pretty. Husband, meanwhile, is calmly helping cute child into her raincoat in no particular hurry, as cute child shows me her bag of candy with a big no front teeth smile. Oh, that's cute. He was definitely in no hurry, and we had our things loaded and were pulling out our parking spot before they emerged from the store. As we left down the street, we saw the woman slamming things into her trunk on the other side of the street, soaked from the pouring rain and madder than a wet hen. It was a truly beautiful sight. JJ22 says, "Edit. I thought this story sounded fake because I couldn't believe that anyone would call someone a cripple and expect them to open the door. But people are telling me it happens all the time. Sorry to hear that this happened to you. Doesn't matter much to me if you believe it or not, considering she had already hit me with her cart earlier and knocked my cane away from my body with a snarky, 'Excuse you,' and bumped into an older lady with a huff of impatience that the lady dared to be in the way in a crowded store. I found it entirely plausible. I don't think she was mad at her husband so much as she was just a bear. She had a face like she'd been sucking lemons while sniffing sewage. She'd gone through the entire store that way, as she was near us a good portion of the time we were shopping, and all of us remarked on her behavior, as did a couple of others that we heard. I walk with a cane sometimes, and clearly people who aren't disabled do not understand how horrible people are to us. But as we see here, they are willing to demand their ignorant 2 cents be heard. Yup, most people are kind, but I get the occasional idiots, particularly older people who think I'm too young to use a cane. I'm 49, though I look 10 years younger, and I guess that is young to some, but I've been using a cane for 5 years as a regular thing, and for 15 years as needed. I use one now whenever I go out, as my walking is not always a reliable thing. A lady in a cafe where we ate lunch today blatantly stared at me as my son helped me from my chair and steadied me while I got my legs working after sitting for too long on a hard chair. Just rude and unashamed of her rudeness. Alright, and our next story was posted by a user, A Wild Mel Appears. Entitled Stepmom Wanted Another Present. Not on mobile, English is not my native language. So a few years ago, I spent my first Christmas day with the father, stepmom, and stepbrother of my then boyfriend, now husband. He had warned me that his stepmom was a little over the top on Christmas. I thought I was prepared, but I had no idea. When we entered, the house was decorated like a winter wonderland, with wreaths, Christmas music boxes, every decoration I could think of. Even the clock wore a Santa hat. The living room was very high, and they seemed to want to make use of it because the tree was roughly 4 meters big. Okay, a little strange, but she likes her Christmas. Good for her. When it was time for presents, things got weird. My boyfriend had helped his very sweet stepbrother, who was significantly younger than him, to choose and buy presents for his parents. We got them a few nice things to eat, etc., because they are adults and have everything they want. In my family, we don't gift each other many things for Christmas because everyone has everything. You either wish for something specific or get money and candy. Oh boy, it was so different here. We gave them our gifts, and when it was our turn, we got some. Then we got some more, and some more. Like maybe 10 different things just for me. It didn't seem to end, and I got really uncomfortable because it was so out of proportion compared to our gifts. And we didn't even know each other that long. I thanked them profusely, and finally we had opened everything. When it was over, his dad and stepmom exchanged gifts. He seemed quite happy with everything, but then she opens her main gift, which was an expensive iPod that she had wished for to go on runs. When she opened it, her face froze, and she looked at it for a few seconds. Then she looked up and told him, "I wanted the iPod Pro." We were all shocked for a second, and he sputtered and tried to explain why this would be completely fine for her. We ran as soon as it was politely possible. That's a yikes from me, dog. Our next story was posted by user Sicken, titled, "Lady thinks my friend is sick because of her hair, says she couldn't eat her food." Happened a week or two during school winter break, and for this I have to give a little backstory. So in my friend's school has a small thing before winter break where the students can dress up as characters from games, movies, etc. For this year, my friend decided to go all out and made a really cool costume of Edelgard from the Fire Emblem series. And with all out, I mean all out. She actually got her hair white like the character and thought of dyeing it afterwards, but she got attached to that white hair. And now, during almost any school break, I go to visit her and stay overnight. This was one of those. We were hungry and decided to go eat somewhere and picked one local burger place. So we go in and make our order, and we two are the kind of people who like to listen to music while talking. And because we're not evil, we usually do the thing where she puts the other earbud in and I take the other one. Because of the music and us talking, we don't notice a small kid coming up to us and get a small scare when he says, "Why does your hair look like that? Are you okay?" And my friend answers, "Oh, don't worry, it doesn't normally look like this." The boy looked a little confused and just said, "Okay," and ran to his mother and said something to her. After a while, we see that the mother is calmly walking towards us and is about to say something. "Hey, young lady," she starts. "My son told me something about your hair, and something about how it doesn't normally look like that. Are you okay?" My friend answers, "Yeah, I'm okay, don't worry about me." Kinda quiet, as neither of us like social interactions. The lady looked kinda concerned, but leaves to her table. And then our food arrives. We both ordered quite the calorie bombs, and as luck would have it, that lady walks to our table again. And one thing which will play a part in the story. I'm a guy. Sometimes people think that me and her are dating, but are just friends. This will be important shortly. She now says, in a more angry tone, "Do you think you should be eating that, miss?" My friend is just able to say, "What?" When the lady continues, "You probably shouldn't be eating that. You look very sick with some kind of virus or something. Just look at your hair. It shouldn't look like that. And you're so thin." Now I try to defriend my friend with, "Calm down, she's okay, and she isn't sick, she just..." "Shut up. Your girlfriend is clearly not okay. Why would you take her to a date when she's like that?" My friend tries to say, "We're just friends," quite flustered. She gets really angry when someone thinks we're dating. Yikes, dog. The lady tries to say something, but is interrupted by the waitress who tells her to either leave us alone and finish her food, or to leave the restaurant. She takes the first option and sits down and gives us death stares the entire time we ate our food. But my friend got a free meal coupon for the restaurant, so worth it. Hope your friend's peroxiditis is contagious and Karen catches it. I've heard there's more than 50% chance of dying, haha, but I both hate and love you at the same time. Thanks, OP. Very epic. Well, that's all for today's episode, guys. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments. I'd love to do some more r/EntitledPeople. And if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe this video. It'd really help it out in the recommendations for other people to come join this amazing community. And if you want to watch more, there's a few buttons down in the description down there to go watch some playlists. So if you want to fall asleep to them, to my lovely little voice, you're more than welcome to. Anyway guys, I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you've been up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.